highlight the need to approach these elements independently, which I don't see that happen. I think people think they're just one and the same. And that's the issue that I'm having. It's like, there are two elements of truth. There's a level one element of truth, and then there's a level two. I also say it's a level one and a level two. Perceptual element of truth, then conceptual element of truth. And people conflate the two.
Yes. Yes, which makes it challenging in the sense of not wishing people to refer to things as truth. It's like, okay, let's accept that true things exist. Let's accept that real things exist. Let's talk about the things you've observed, and let's talk about what you think about those things. Because if we can discriminate between those two things, we can stop using the word truth poorly. I don't want my truth to be your truth or other truth. We don't have to go back and forth on which truth we're going to vote for today or who all believes what. Like, I don't need to debate reality. Let's take some time and actually make sure we can say, what have you observed? What have I observed? And then clarify that perception so that we can move on to a point of describing, okay, how is this applicable? What did you think about this? What was your criteria? Why did you think this? Why did you interpret those things this way?
Got it. Real quick, while I look for this right, are facts and truth equivalent or distinctly different?
Right. In the context of this conversation, we have to define. We have to call those things. We have to say that they are actually the same, but are perceived as different. And so, like capital T truth, that existence exists is something that we really should not debate, but people do. And they're allowed to say things. You're allowed to be wrong, but you're allowed to be inconsistent with reality. We'll say that.
Okay.
And, so yeah, we have to agree that existence exists. And when that happens, that's our capital T truth. We use our capital T truth to observe these facts and then say, okay, truth and facts are one and the same. I'm like, great. Like, I believe this about that. And that belief is a thought that I hold on to so closely. That's also something I think is the truth. I'm like, okay, now we're doing something different. Now we are making judgments, and that's cool. And if you want to consider this judgment the most, like something that is so certain that you consider it just as certain as the observation, I'm like, that is a choice you have made, but it is not actually the same. Like we have to make a distinction at that point in time and saying, now the judgment you have made is a lower key truth. This is a thing that you think is the truth. You're considering as the truth, which is cool. You're allowed to that is your choice, but you just can't project that onto other people. I mean, like when you project that onto other people, they have the right to push back and like, you are saying something for you. You're saying this thing for you. And I believe that you think that for you, but I didn't show up to this and agree to take on every single thought you have. And that's where more conversation can come in when it comes to persuasion and debate and the rest of that. So I just think it's helpful to have that clarity to say this perception is a more capital T truth that we can say existence exists, and where we make these judgments, it's a lower key truth, and we can have a discussion then on like how many people you can convince or persuade or debate into having that clarity. So to answer your question, yes, facts should be the observable stuff that should be associated with a capital T truth.
I mean, like, this seems problematic to me, right?
It is. I say this thing, this is how I see it, and I realize that other people are like, well, I don't see it that way. I'm like, and now we are getting back into this gray zone, which I'm like, you don't have to be, but that is, I try to keep myself out of the gray zone by saying these things that we can't change are our capital T truth. And people are like, but they are not that same way in all times and all places. And I'm like, that's true, because I'm not referring to absolutism. I don't want to ever pretend to be an ideologue. I'm not trying to say that nothing else changes in the world. I'm saying that in this context, this way that I'm speaking right here, we observed that the sun was hot, gravity was this much, and the sky was blue. And this time, where I was right here, I'm referring to the things I observed as truth.
I mean, yes. So the perceptual piece, right? You call it the capital T truth. I mean, to me, it's all related to the senses. It has to be something that's related to the senses. because it has no real meaning. It's just the thing was red, it was round, it went fast, or something like that. Or maybe even not even it went fast, because what is fast to?
It's a relative term. Yep.
But the truth piece seems to be when you've got so many perceptual pieces. That's why it's conceptual. Because I can't look at all of these things. Is what I am saying in line with the facts? That's in line with the facts. Because perceptual is the actual, no, the thing was this. This was the thing. And conceptual is like, well, it's in this area. We know this. This is a building I'm in. I don't see all sides of the building. I'm not, I haven't measured the whole thing. The moon is X million miles away or trillion miles away. I haven't been there, but you know what I'm saying? So, but it's in line with the facts. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. But I guess both can be truth, right? Because facts are truth. Right?
That's the truth.
But
some people pretend that we can have absolute knowledge. And I always want to go back to that is not what I'm referring to. I'm acknowledging the fact that human beings are limited, and so I'm only going to talk about specific relevant facts. There's only going to be a certain kind of I'm going to find pertinent parts of the thing that I'm describing and only mention pertinent parts. There are lots of parts of the thing that I'm missing and that I'm leaving out on purpose because I don't have absolute knowledge. All I have is contextual knowledge. I've learned this much about a thing. I can describe it in these terms, and I'm going to use that as the metaphor to say, when I say this word, it's referring to that thing over there. These are not all the qualities of the thing. These are the pertinent qualities that I am referring to. And when I say this is the facts, when I'm like the sun is hot, I didn't mention that it was yellow, that sometimes it has other colors, or that sometimes it moves. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking in context to say, I noticed that this ball of light in the sky was warm. It gave me more than I had before. And people could say, hey, it's an incomplete fact. I'm like, yes, all facts are incomplete because I don't have all knowledge.
I mean,
let's never pretend that that's what we're doing.
True. I mean, I get that part. But
Nice.
see, I think what you just explained is the smart guy's explanation. And I'm looking for the average guy because I'm playing the average guy today. I'm trying to look, because what I'm saying is I'm trying to have a practical conversation. And the point I'm trying to get at is the idea of ideas dominating. When ideas start to control, this is kind of what I mean. And how there's a conflict for people who don't build up valid or deep ideas, because some people have such a strong relation to the idea. Once again, it's the hammer and everything is a nail. And the person who is just like, yo, but these are the facts. It's like, well, I know that fact and this is that. Bam. It's like, whoa, and the mechanism is what it is, but there's different formats. It could be a person who has accepted reason dogmatically and stopped thinking. And so they already know the answer. And so now here's that answer. And then the person's like, yo, but this doesn't line up with my understanding of the facts. And the person didn't even look at the facts because they just used the reason that they had stored, but they didn't know that the situation changed,
Right.
The person, and I'm going to bring up religion a lot because a lot of times with religion is that these are not even your ideas. You didn't develop these ideas of your own. You accepted these ideas and you said, yes, whenever I see this type of person, they need Jesus, or they need blah, 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 or they need to be flogged, or the whole point I'm trying to make is that because a person, when they get a certain context, they'll be like, well, this is the truth. Jesus is life. And these are the examples that I'm familiar with. So this is why I'm using them. I don't necessarily know a whole bunch of different religions, but I'm just saying, like, you can you can have every explanation for everything in the world just by people. There are people who read the Bible who will tell you that everything can be explained through biblical text. And yeah, see, if you believed in Jesus and you knew this and this is what this means and this is what that means, it's like, I don't know. I'm not willing to accept that. And I don't know that you accurately have identified this thing. You know?
What they're telling you is their level of development. Like, because this happens in every society. Like, you don't have to just have religious rules. Anyone who follows rules has that same kind of, this is what the rules say. The rules are right.
True.
What you have with rules, that's it. It's the rules in the military. It's the rules in the government. It's the rules at work. It's the rules, with good cops, whatever. There are a lot of places where they just go to like, this is the standard. The standard has been accepted. Other people have accepted the standard, and that is what it is now. And that explains the world. We have rules, and now we have order. And so, like, Kevin Wilbur explains how people develop through that whole process of, level one, where they get that self-sufficiency and know what they're thinking, or at least identify everything with their mind. And all they have is just, this is me experiencing the world. And then level two, they start noticing other people are in the world too. Level three, they start realizing other people may have thoughts. I don't know. I guess maybe they're also experiencing the world in their own way. And by level four, they're like, you know what? These people with thoughts, some of us agree on what the rules are, and we all now have joint values and joint concerns that we're going to say this is the worldview we accept. This is the perspective we hold to. And once they get to that level of level four, I mean, that's where most order and structure in society comes from. But of the 9 levels that there are, a lot of people get stuck there. Like usually the levels build on one another, and you get to progress, and you recognize that there's order and structure. And some people are like, you know what? There's also the world outside of the order and structure that we imposed upon it. There's real facts here that make some of these rules helpful in different contexts. Oh wait, I can think through these rules and rise to level 5 and say, like, there's objective data that actually points to when these rules are useful. Oh, I can use them over here, over there. And then you get to level 6 and you're like, oh, other societies have different rules too. Those rules are helpful in those contexts in some ways and sometimes. And that's a helpful way for me to look at it, to say, like, this is a way that the human beings can develop, and that if enough human beings develop to a certain level, we can have a whole society develop and like start making new rules or different social norms that we hold people to. And I like the idea of development to the point where if you think about thinking, you can progress through the levels in a way that makes it reasonable. But if you're talking to a person who's stuck at that level 4, it's like, these are the rules. This is how this has to be. If you just thought like this, you wouldn't have any more questions. You're like, okay, this person is telling me where they are. They have got to the point of rules, and they haven't realized that these rules are only helpful in certain contexts yet. I can help if they are willing to ask. I mean, like, if they're willing to think, I will ask them questions and say, what about this part? How is the rule helpful over here? How could it be more helpful? What do you think about that? And sometimes people are willing to go that direction, and then sometimes they're just not. They're not even able to do it.
I mean, so for me, sometimes I'm not willing. Yeah, for some things, I mean, I don't even feel like I have to even involve myself in some things. When it comes to ethical, moral things, I'll involve myself.
There you go.
And when it comes to preferences, I mean, I'm not that deep into it.